As 2025 comes to a close, CBS News is looking back on all the news that made headlines this year. Lindsay Reiser has more.
From tariffs to immigration to a government shutdown, 2025 marked a year of historic political events and policy changes, and CBS News polling was tracking Americans' reactions through all of it. CBS News Executive Director of Elections and Surveys Anthony Salvanto joins us now to break all of this down. So, Anthony, let's go ahead and start with the new Trump administration. How did people react at first, and how did their views change?
Hey there, Lindsay. Yeah, let's go to January and start off with the Trump administration. When it first came in, immediately afterwards, people told us in big numbers they thought he was doing what he had promised in the campaign. And there was also a lot of optimism about the economy going forward. What we subsequently started to see, though, is a theme that would stretch throughout the year, and that was people talking about costs, talking about prices. This is a snapshot from February, but we saw people saying throughout the year they still thought prices were high, were still going up. That was important because as we saw through the year, and this is from one of our most recent polls in December, we often found people finding the administration they felt wasn't putting enough focus in their mind on trying to lower prices and also describing things with regard to inflation as better than people were really feeling. So what happened with all of that? Well, what we saw from U.S. economy ratings was that they stayed low. And they weren't just low this year, frankly. You'd have to go back even to 2020 to find the last time a majority of people had said that the U.S. economy was good. So this is a years-long trend, if you will, and it really still was all about those prices and those costs. The approval ratings for the president's handling of the economy is kind of a result of those feelings because he started out pretty high at 51, and it slowly, somewhat steadily did decline over the course of the year. Again, was about that perceived focus, and certainly this is going to be a topic that then continues into 2026 with people looking for that focus on costs and inflation.
What about issues like DOGE cuts and tariff policies? How did that shape people's views throughout the year?
Well, yeah, early on, what we saw was a lot of partisanship. And this was a story you and I talked about throughout, right? Partisan breaks on a lot of things. With regard to DOGE's influence, you saw Republicans more likely to say they thought it should have a lot. Democrats, not so much. The other part of it was tariffs, as you mentioned. What we were looking at was, did people think they would raise prices in the short term? Did people think that they would then affect prices long term? Because that was one of the administration's arguments, right? That this was a long-term play for the economy. You certainly saw a lot of people saying that, and this is a snapshot from March, but this continued through the year too. You saw people saying that they thought it would increase prices, and in some respects also in the long term. Republicans thought it would bring back manufacturing jobs to the U.S., but we did see partisan splits on that as well. Overall, they weren't terribly popular.
All right, let's talk about the summer. We saw some protests over immigration policies and roundups, the president's deportation program. Walk us through how that was seen.
So again, let me come back to the partisanship on this, because this is one of those places where we saw really, really strong approval from Republicans. This is approval, disapproval of that deportation program, very much lower among Democrats, split among independents. So this was a policy Republicans really liked. And in many ways, throughout the year, Republicans told us that this was the way they were evaluating the president, more so in many cases than on the economy. And that stood out as a difference as well, right? The other part of the deportation program, and what underpinned a lot of the movement on it, such as there was, or the differences on it, I should say, is this. When people told us that they felt like the program was deporting more people than they had expected, they were more likely to disapprove of it. But when they felt like it was trying to deport fewer or the same amount, they were more likely to approve of it. So it was how they saw it going about the program that really affected their views of it. And this is from the summer, but this was also throughout the year.
Few political stories in the fall that you were closely watching. Of course, the government shutdown, some major elections also. What did we see? And also, how might what some of the issues you polled about in 2025 inform 2026?
So let me reference a couple of those things. These are from the exit polls taken the nights of those elections. In California, where they passed Prop 50, a lot of folks who voted yes said that was to counter the changes they saw Republicans making in other states. And what that really sets up for context is this was a very nationalized sort of contest. And you saw a lot of fights throughout the year over redistricting. We don't normally see redistricting a lot in the middle of a decade, so that was something notable about 2025 and certainly sets up a lot of what to watch in 2026. And then the other part, of course, the Trump administration, were they making people financially better off? We saw some of that. And we also saw a lot of financial concerns come out in the elections as well in November, but this is where we ended up in December, where relatively fewer people felt like they were financially better off. A little more optimism going into 26 for that. But again, setting up, we saw cost of living a lot in the elections. We'll see cost of living, I'm sure, be a hot topic as we get into 26.
All right, Anthony Salvanto, thank you.